You're listening to Luke's English Podcast. For more information, visit teacherluke.co.uk. Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. Here's a new episode of the podcast, released quite soon after the last one. This may be a bit of a surprise. You're thinking, what, a new episode? Where did this come from? Yes, new episode, and it's a bit shorter. I'll explain why in a moment. It's basically a sort of an announcement. Essentially, the announcement is the fact that I'm currently in the process of moving this podcast to a new podcast host. And you might have noticed that that is affecting my podcast feed a little bit. That means the way that the podcast is showing up in places like Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts. You might have noticed that the feed looks all weird, like loads of episodes have disappeared. Maybe it's only been showing episodes up until episode 480 or something. Basically, lots of episodes have disappeared. Oh my God, what's going on? Is the podcast broken? What's happening? Are those episodes going to come back? Yes, they are. They're just sort of technical issues relating to moving all the episodes to a new host. When you move to a new host, your podcast feed kind of gets reset or redirected, and it takes a while for all the different software to catch up. And so sometimes episodes will disappear. Little issues will happen, and then normally after a few days everything returns to normal. So all the episodes will return as normal, and everything will go back to normal soon. There's going to be a few other things as well. I'm going to tell you all about it in this episode. Let's just settle in properly first. So I hope you're doing well. It's the longest day of the year today. Long day, short episode. Longest day, 21st of June as I record this. I wonder if there are any special things happening where you are. Here in Paris, it's Fête de la Musique, which is part of the World Music Day celebrations. On the 21st of June every year, the city just sort of transforms into a big music concert, and there are people playing music in the streets and stuff. It's amazing. And I did a podcast about it a few years ago. Some of you might remember that episode. So we've been invited to a special party as well this evening. I say we, it's me, my wife and my daughter. We've been invited to the British Ambassador's residence here in Paris for a garden party. I know, how posh is that? Yeah, Paddington Bear will be there as well, apparently. Paddington Bear, you know him? Little bear with a blue coat and a red hat. He's going to be there, apparently. I don't know if it's the real, well, I'd say the real Paddington. There is no such thing. He's a cartoon character. Sorry to disappoint you. But my daughter is very excited about this. She's very excited to meet Paddington. This morning we said to her, so we're going to a party this evening. It's a tea party at the Royal Ambassador's residence. And Paddington is going to be there. And I think in her mind, she believes it's going to be just us and Paddington and the Queen having tea together, because she saw that video. I don't know if you saw that as well. It was released around the time of the Jubilee. There was a video of Paddington having tea with the Queen, and Paddington is sort of going, oh, I like marmalade, and the Queen says, oh, I like marmalade too. Look, I've got my own secret supply here in my bag.
I do hope you're having a lovely Jubilee. Tea? Oh, yes, please. Perhaps you would like a marmalade sandwich. I always keep one for emergencies.
So do I. I keep mine in here.
Oh.
For later.
It was quite a cute video released around the time of the Jubilee, but my daughter saw that video, and so in her head she's got Paddington and the Queen, tea. And when we said that we were going to go to a tea party with Paddington at the Ambassador's residence, I think she thinks that we're going to have like one-to-one tea with the Queen and Paddington. I hope she won't be disappointed. She won't be, though, because it's going to be a big garden party. So I'm hoping to record a podcast about it, either when I'm there or just afterwards. We will see. So anyway, I'm recording this, right? I'm recording this episode for you now because I have some news about Luke's English Podcast and some news about Luke's English Podcast Premium. It's good news on balance. Okay, nothing drastic, but there will be some changes. Okay, not huge changes, but some changes nonetheless. I'm happy about it. I think overall it's good news. I'm going to spell it all out in this short episode. Okay, so some changes. Changes. It's lots of changes have been going on at Luke's English Podcast behind the scenes. So obviously I moved flat and I moved pod room at the beginning of the year, and that was complicated. But I'm in now, and it's amazing to be installed, and I'm able to now focus on the podcast properly. So as well as moving to a new apartment and moving to a new pod room, I have also moved to a new podcast host. That might not mean much to you, and it won't really make a huge difference to you, because ultimately you'll still get your episodes in the normal way. But for me, my podcast is now hosted by a different company, and long-term listeners will remember me sort of mentioning things like this in the past. Whenever I move to a new host, I normally will tell you all about it. So long-term listeners, do you remember my original host? It was podomatic.com. Do you remember that? teacherluke.podomatic.com. So I moved there. I started there, and then when I decided that that wasn't the right place for the podcast, I moved it to Audio Boom, or Audio Boo, they were called originally. Audio Boo. Do you remember that? And then Audio Boo changed its name to Audio Boom, with an M on the end. And then after I was with them for a while, I moved to another host, and that's Libsyn. Libsyn is the company that I've been with for ages. I say company, it's just where I upload the episodes, and then these hosts, they obviously hold the episodes in their servers, and they also distribute my episodes through the magic of the internet to your iPhone or whatever it is, wherever you get your podcasts. So I moved to Libsyn in 2017. So I've been with them for 5 years. And Libsyn are the ones that manage the Luke's English Podcast app, the apps, because I've got 2 of them, Android and iOS. And also they've been managing the premium subscription as well. But then I've just moved to a new host. It's called Acast. Let's just have a little look at what Acast say about themselves. Hold on a second. See what Acast... Okay, so Acast, on their website, they describe themselves as the home of podcasting. And they say, whether you're looking to start a new podcast or move your existing podcast, Acast has you covered. It may be the number one podcast host these days. Certainly they host loads of different podcasts. And now Luke's English Podcast is one of them. And it's really good to be with Acast. They are based in Europe. Well, actually, they've got offices all over the place. But it's a bit more. It makes a bit more sense for me to be with them in one sense, because they are in Europe and they've got an office in France. So I'm no longer dealing with sort of customer support people in the United States, and that was always a bit weird because they were in a different time zone and stuff like that. So it just basically, it suits me better, and I think it will be better for you too. So here are some of the cool things about this. As I said, no big changes, because you'll still get your podcasts as usual, and you'll still be able to get LEP Premium. But the cool things are that you'll be able to get Luke's English Podcast Premium much more easily. It won't just be in the Luke's English Podcast app anymore. You'll be able to get LEP Premium episodes in your podcast app of choice. I don't know what you use. Maybe you're using Apple Podcasts or Pocket Casts or whatever. Google Podcasts. Overcast, Castbox. If it's an app with the word cast in it, you'll be able to get LEP Premium there as well. And I'm going to give you more details about that in due course. Premium subscribers, I'm going to upload a premium episode explaining that very clearly and explaining everything that you need to do. So that's cool. It's going to make it easier for you to get LEP Premium episodes, and it'll be more convenient. But also, you can support Luke's English Podcast a lot more easily with this new system. And if you'd like to be a stakeholder in LEP, if you believe in the project, so it'll be easier for you to support the show if you want to. You don't have to, but the option will be there. And this is all part of my attempt over the last 13 years to become a self-sufficient podcaster who can devote more time and energy to this project and make my episodes better and more useful and entertaining for you. You know, it's how I can sort of manage the whole project more effectively. Okay, so one thing that you might notice is that there are going to be some ads in episodes. Ads, that's advertising. Short, automatic advertising might appear in episodes when you listen to them, depending on where you are. You won't get them every time, and I expect some of you just won't get them at all, but we'll see, okay? But so you might notice a few little automatic ads. And also you might hear me mentioning podcast sponsors at the start of episodes sometimes. I used to do that every single episode, right? Previously, I used to have sponsors, which I would sort of mention at the beginning of episodes. But the pandemic basically stopped that. The pandemic hit lots of people pretty hard. One of the ways it affected me, and I haven't really talked about this, but one of the ways it affected me is that essentially my podcast sponsorships just disappeared. They dried up. Remember, I used to talk about italki, Spoken, Audible, and things like that. But those things stopped basically during the coronavirus pandemic. But, you know, I have to find ways to keep the podcast going, don't I? And so the new host, Acast, gives me the option to put some ads in my episodes. And they might also let me read some sponsorship promos too. If they find sponsors, they might send them in my direction. So I might read out some little sponsorship promos, which is kind of normal, to be honest. This is the way that podcasting is going. You know, most of those big podcasts that you might listen to, a lot of them will have sponsors, and you'll hear little sponsorship promos or maybe some automatic advertising. It's just totally normal. This is just the way it goes. You know, this is the way that podcasts are developing as the technology develops and the medium of podcasting becomes more and more established. Different types of monetization are just normal. We can't just do all of this for free forever. So things like little automatic adverts and sponsorships are part and parcel of the whole system. This is how an industry develops around this kind of thing, right? It's like YouTube as well. If you watch YouTube, there are adverts on YouTube videos. You know, you have to sit there for a few seconds until the advert is done, and then there you go. You get your content. It's just the way it is. And back when I started this podcast in 2009, it wasn't really possible to have these monetization options because the technology just wasn't there. But these days, it's normal to either have some advertising in the content, or you can have the option to pay for a subscription with more content but no ads. So you, in most cases, you get the chance to opt out of advertising and remove them completely, but you've got to pay a little subscription each month. Just like YouTube, you get some ads on that platform, and that's just normal, isn't it now? And some people choose to get YouTube Premium and go ad-free, and then you get all the music and stuff as well. I've considered doing that, but I've found it a bit too expensive. It's about 19. How expensive is it? I think it's about 20 euros for YouTube Premium. So it's always been a bit too much for me. The same thing for Spotify as well. If you use the free version of Spotify to listen to your music, then you'll notice that there are ads on that too, unless you pay for a Spotify subscription. And then you just get like all music, just all the music, don't you? And no advertising, which is incredible. So, you know, a similar thing is happening with Luke's English podcast. It's, as I said, it's not going to make a huge difference to you, I have to say. But I thought that I would at least mention it. You know, I thought I'd at least tell you, just so I can be transparent. So here's how it's going to work. So you'll get all the free episodes as normal. If you're subscribed to Luke's English podcast, you're just going to continue getting all of the free episodes as you normally would. And the entire episode archive will continue to be freely available as normal. So it's all going to be normal, pretty much. You will probably hear a few short ads sometimes. They will be short. They'll certainly be shorter than if I did them myself. And if you want to remove those ads so that you never hear them while listening to Luke's English podcast, you'll also be able to sign up for ad-free episodes. And that's going to cost about $2 per month. I've chosen dollars because it seems to still be the international currency. Obviously, there are so many different currencies out there. We're just going to go for dollars. So it's going to be $2 per month for ad-free episodes. And if you choose that, obviously you'll get no ads, but also you'll be supporting me too if you do that. Now, if you're thinking, but wait a minute, Luke, what about all the people who can't afford to pay $2 a month? Well, as I said, you'll still be able to get all of the episodes completely free. And you can just carry on as usual. You just might hear some short adverts. Okay? What else? You'll also be able to access LEP Premium episodes more easily than before, as I said. And it should be a system that you all should have access to. Unlike with my original system through the LEP apps, which seemed to block certain credit cards from different countries. The number of emails that I've had over the last 4 years of LEP Premium with the same problem, which is that they can't sign up to it because the billing system rejects their credit card. And at the end of the day, there seems to be nothing that we can do about it. It just seems to be that the payment system with the old LEP Premium service just didn't accept certain credit cards from certain places. I think it's because Libsyn they are based in the USA, and most of their subscribers for most of their premium subscriptions with other podcasts are from the USA. So they're a bit sort of USA centric, whereas Acast, they have a system which is a lot more international, which should mean that for those of you who haven't been able to sign up, you should be able to sign up now, which is good. And, you know, there's like 150 episodes of LEP Premium. 150 episodes, and it's not just me rambling, not at all. It's like totally the opposite. As far as I can make it, you know, different. The episodes are still fairly long. You still get all the humor and all that. But I have one focus, and that is to help you improve your vocab or grammar and your pronunciation as well. So yeah, you'll be able to get LEP Premium episodes through your normal podcasting app, whichever one you use, and you should be able to sign up for it. It should actually work. And yeah, if you become a premium subscriber, that will also remove all of the adverts from the episodes too, and you'll be supporting me as well. Okay? So there you go. That's all I wanted to say. There'll be some ads in my episodes, but you can go ad-free if you want. And that's just like $2, which is what's the equivalent of that in terms of drinks? That's not even a pint of beer. That's like half a pint. That's less than half a pint of beer a month, just to put it into some perspective. You know, you don't have to. You don't have to. You can still be a podcast listener. You can still be a Lepster. But if you want to get rid of the ads, $2. If you want to sign up to LEP Premium and get rid of the ads and actually, you know, do it more conveniently, you can do that as well. And if you do either of those things, you will be supporting Luke's English podcast. And, you know, I want this to go on and on and on. I want this podcast to continue. I want it to go on and on and on, beyond 1,000 episodes. I want it to continue to infinity and beyond. But to do that, I do need to find ways to monetize this show without it affecting you too much. Also, you know, if I can monetize Luke's English podcast, then it justifies me spending time on it, doesn't it? Because if I was doing this, if there was another way for me to maybe earn more money, like, for example, to do a lot more one-to-one teaching or private lessons and things like that, if that was a better thing for me to do in terms of making some money to help pay for my daughter's education and holidays and to pay for the electric bike that we're renting, and ultimately to maybe get a car one day and things like that. If there was another way that I could make money, then I would probably do that. But since this is what I love doing, and I think this is what I'm quite good at now after 13 years. I mean, who knows? I might not be any good at it. But anyway, it's at least something that I enjoy doing. Then it makes sense for me to choose this as my job, don't you think? So, this is just my way of doing that. And this way I can keep the whole episode archive free, but I can also reward people who support me by giving them my premium content, which I always work hard to produce. So hopefully you will agree that this is a win-win for everybody, really. For LEP Premium subscribers, keep an eye on your LEP subscription, because I will be uploading an announcement about that too. And also some new premium content is in the pipeline. Okay? I mentioned before that I'd been sort of holding back on some LEP Premium stuff recently because I didn't know what was happening. So I've got some content ready to go. I've just been waiting for the right moment, and it's all about the technical side of changing from the current LEP Premium system to the new one. So I've been waiting for that to be sorted out, but it's much clearer now, and so I will be able to focus on the premium content more directly again. Storytime episodes are coming to Luke's English Podcast Premium. Okay, so there you go. You might be wondering, right, how do I need to do anything, Luke? Well, if no, you don't have to do anything. You just carry on. You don't even need to subscribe to anything else. If you just want to continue listening to the podcast as normal, just carry on living your life and listening to LEP as you normally would. If you want to sign up to the premium subscription in the new way, then you should see in the show notes to the episode, you should see something that says sign up to LEP Premium here or become a member here. And the system is called Acast Plus. Now, I'll ask you just hold on though, because it's not been launched yet. Okay, that system hasn't been launched yet. I'm not entirely sure of the launch date. I think it's going to be the 1st of July. But I will just ask you to hold your horses, as we say in English. Just hold on before you sign up to LEP Premium, or maybe choose the ad-free option. The option will be available to you soon. I literally just moved all my episodes. I transferred the podcast to Acast yesterday, so everything is being done right now, and I'm like, my wrist is hurting because here's the reason. My wrist is hurting because I've been doing so much it's how to describe this. I've been doing so much clicking and uploading and so much computer work that it's giving me a repetitive strain injury in my wrist. It's okay, I'll be fine. But so you can't actually sign up right now as I record this on the 21st of June, but the plan is to make it available on the 1st of July. Okay, right, there you go. So that's all I needed to say or wanted to say in this shorter episode. If you want to email me, if you've got any questions about this, you can email me at luketeacher@hotmail.com. Yes, I'm still using Hotmail. So if you've got questions about this, you can send me an email there. You can also contact me through my website. Just go to teacherluke.co.uk and you'll see contact in the menu, and you can contact me there. Or on social media, I use Twitter @English Podcast. Okay. And I will be putting some information on my website. So there will be a page on my website that will explain this, and you should be able to see a link to that page in the description of this episode. Okay? All right, good. So there you go. All right? Now, I better get moving because I need to go home and iron a shirt. Right? I've got to iron a shirt so it looks all presentable. I don't want to turn up at the ambassador's residence with a creased looking shirt. I don't want to look all scruffy. I have had a haircut. Finally, I got to the hairdresser. You know what, listeners? It was totally fine. It was totally fine. When I actually stepped inside the hairdresser, the barber, who always cuts my hair, is super friendly. And for about half an hour, it took about half an hour for him to do my hair, we talked about the Beatles. I know, perfect subject for me. But my barber is interested in that kind of thing. He likes rock music and he likes films and things. So we talked about the Beatles in French. I cannot vouch for the quality of my French. In fact, I'm certain that I obliterated the French language. And thank goodness my barber, the hairdresser, thank goodness he is a professional. He's been cutting hair for decades. So he's a proper professional barber. So he was able to put up with my dodgy French. But he's very nice, and so he was willing to kind of tolerate my dodgy French and try to make an effort to understand what it was I was trying to say to him about the Beatles and about the Get Back documentary. There you go. Other stuff. I'm working in July. I've got a crazy teaching schedule, full-time. I don't know how much work I'll be able to do on the podcast. So these last 2 weeks of June, I'm just working just constantly to make sure that everything is in place for the new, for the changes to the podcast and stuff. But also I'm recording lots of episodes that I should be able to publish during the summer when, I don't have a lot of time. So let's see. As I've said before, I don't think it's a good idea for me to tell you or promise you that there will be certain content coming. But I will say that I have got things in the diary, including tomorrow I'm talking to a podcaster, a guy who does a podcast about Paul McCartney. And we're going to do an episode about Paul McCartney. I know some of you are thinking, what, more Beatles stuff? Yeah, but it was Paul McCartney's 80th birthday just a few days ago. And I got a fair amount of messages from listeners saying, are you going to do something about Paul McCartney? It's his 80th birthday. I think this is a good time for you to do an episode about Paul McCartney. So, yes, let's do a Paul McCartney episode. I did a few episodes about John Lennon last year, so it's only appropriate that I do something about Paul as well. So I'm going to be speaking to Paul McCartney podcaster tomorrow, and we're going to have a good old Paul conversation all about Paul. Maybe to try to convince those of you who don't really know why he is an important figure or why he is a significant person. And what's all the fuss about? So there's that. I've also got an episode with my dad. It's not the Rick Thompson report this time. We're not avoiding politics. It's just that we had we've been planning to record an episode about something else for months since Christmas, and so we finally got round to it. And so I've got that one recorded. I'm currently editing it, and that will go up. What else have I got? I've got some other things as well in the pipeline. So yeah, working hard to produce episodes that I will be able to upload during July and hopefully August. We will see. I'm going to try and record something either at the Ambassador's residence today, or maybe I'll be able to do that after going to the garden party, and I'll just be able to tell you what it's about, what happened, if there's anything to report. We will see. But more podcasts will be arriving soon. And as I said, if you would like to ask me any questions about the changes to Luke's English Podcast Premium or anything else that I've mentioned here, you can get in touch. Premium subscribers, I will be doing a short information episode about what you need to do to change to the new system. Okay? And I will answer your questions about things like refunds. For example, if you've got a 12-month subscription to the current LEP Premium platform and you're worried about that, then you'll be able to get a refund on the stuff that you haven't used, if you know what I mean. Okay, don't worry, I'll explain it all on LEP Premium soon. Okay, but just watch this space. Thank you so much for listening to this announcement episode. And I think that's it. Okay, all right. I'll speak to you again soon. But have a lovely day, morning, afternoon, evening, or night. Okay, and I will speak to you soon. It's difficult to end these. I end up going in a circle. I'll speak to you soon. Have a nice day, and I'll speak to you soon. But now it's time for me to finish, so I'm going to I just end up going round and round in circles. All right. Thank you. Cheers. Speak to you soon. Bye, 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 bye. Well, wait a minute. There's a bit more. I'm back again. I wanted to say a few extra things. It's now the next day, right, the 22nd of June. So the day after I recorded the rest of that. And I just wanted to add here at the end some of the stuff about the British ambassador's garden party thing, because I did say that I would talk about it. Now, I didn't manage to record anything while I was there because, stupid me, I left my podcast recorder in my pod room when I rushed back home to iron my shirt and then get on my e-bike to pick up my daughter from school and then take her to the garden party where we were going to meet my wife. I forgot the podcast recorder, so I couldn't actually do anything sort of there at the event. But it was very nice. So the British ambassador's residence. Let me just kind of tell you about that. This is the British ambassador's residence. Let me just tell you who the British ambassador to France is, or what that role is. So the British ambassador to France and her residence is this very splendid property on one of the poshest streets in Paris, with a beautiful garden and lots of wonderful looking rooms in it. Very, very nice indeed. Very classy. So the British ambassador to France is the United Kingdom's foremost or most important diplomatic representative in France and is the head of Britain's diplomatic mission in Paris. The official title is Her Majesty's Ambassador to France. At the moment, it's a woman called Menna Rawlings. That's her name. So she is Her Majesty's Ambassador to France. She was there at the party. There weren't that many people. I mean, it's a large garden. You can fit 1,000, maybe a couple of thousand people in that garden. There must have been maybe 100 to 200 people there, maybe less, maybe about 100 people. And she was there wandering around, sort of greeting people, saying hello. I got an invitation to this through the British Council because I'm a teacher at the British Council. We were all given the opportunity to put our names on the list. So I was one of those people. And there was one of my other colleagues there as well. So that's how I got in there. And the ambassador was walking around with her husband, meeting people and stuff. And I had a little chat to her. It was very nice. You're supposed to call her. You can't call her Menna. All right, Menna, that's her first name, or Mrs. Rawlings. You actually have to call her Your Excellency. Can you believe it? You actually have to call her Your Excellency. So, yeah, my wife is the one who sort of made me talk to her. She was trying to persuade me to get Her Excellency on the podcast. And I was like, she's not going to want to be on Luke's English podcast, really. My wife gave me a good nudge. And so I found an opportunity to introduce myself and my wife. My daughter was somewhere else, being very independent for a 4-year-old. It's okay. She was in a sort of a room being read a story with some other children. And so I kind of started making small talk, and I didn't manage to get to the whole, oh yeah, I do a podcast. It's a podcast for learners of English around the world. It's actually quite successful. I've got, people listening to, would you like to be a guest one day? I didn't manage to get to that because she managed to escape talking to me and my wife. And she was like, oh, my husband needs my help. He needs someone to dance with. So she rushed off to go and rescue her husband from the dance floor, or at least to join her husband on the dance floor. There was a live band playing. But so it was anyway nice to meet her. Large garden, beautiful garden with a big green lawn and trees and everything. It's a very, very attractive place. A long table down the middle with the people serving drinks, like some soft drinks and Pimm's as well. Pimm's, which is this traditional English summertime drink, which is the drink that we have at garden parties. It's a kind of... What is it? What is Pimm's? Oh, I've been through this before. I've had this question. What is Pimm's? I can't remember. It's a gin-based British liqueur. Okay, an alcoholic drink. It's a quintessentially British drink. It's made by infusing gin with a secret concoction of botanicals, that's like herbs and things, and caramelized orange and warm spices. So it's a mix of gin and sort of fruit extracts and spices mixed in with some lemonade. And then in the glass, you traditionally will have ice and cucumber, strawberries, and also some mint and maybe some other herbs. So it's a nice, refreshing, fruity, tasty, summery drink that we have. And so they were serving Pimm's, and they were serving other drinks and some sandwiches and cakes and scones with cream and strawberry, all very, very British, of course. And there was a live band, a fantastic band playing, really great. They were playing a mix of sort of Caribbean music and just sort of soul and jazz music and stuff with different singers. And yes, Paddington Bear was there. It was quite funny to see Paddington. He was standing there. I mean, obviously it was a man in a suit. I didn't say that to my daughter. She was like, "Is it the real Paddington?" And I said, very diplomatically, I said, "Well, it's a real Paddington. Yes, it is a real Paddington." Not necessarily the real Paddington, but a real Paddington, yeah. So she was delighted to see Paddington, essentially a guy in a suit, but a very good, convincing suit. I'm going to close my window while I'm talking to you, because I've suddenly got the impression that there must be neighbours with their windows open listening to Luke's English podcast. Without signing up for ad-free content, listeners. So Paddington was there, a person in a suit, a very good suit, but it must have been boiling hot. I mean, I was hot and I was just, in shirt and trousers, but the poor person inside the Paddington costume must have been absolutely melting inside there. And I don't know who was inside, but maybe it was a French person because they weren't speaking any English. It was just basically waving. You know what it's like when you're inside one of those big suits. I don't know if you do know what it's like. Have you ever been inside a big animal suit or those sort of suits that you see at football games and things or children's parties? Well, it must be boiling, and also it's probably almost impossible to see anything. So Paddington was accompanied by a guy in a suit who was basically showing him around, because Paddington, I guess, essentially was blind at this party, so needed someone to help him walk around. But Paddington was there taking photos with people. My daughter was delighted to have a photo with Paddington, although she suddenly became terrified. Well, not terrified. She suddenly became nervous and scared of Paddington. She queued up. She was excited, queuing up to take a photo. And when it came to actually walk over to him and stand next to him, she was like, she went all shy and started hiding. But then she got her confidence back and she held Paddington's hand, and the three of us stood there with Paddington, so the four of us, and took our photographs. That was wonderful. And my daughter just got obsessed with Paddington. She was just like, "Where's Paddington? Where's Paddington? There he is. It's okay. He's over there." It was just Paddington, Paddington, Paddington. Some of you are thinking, who is this Paddington anyway? Paddington is a cartoon bear, a bear from a cartoon and from a series of children's books. Paddington is sort of an institution in the United Kingdom. I grew up, my generation, and then since then, younger generations have grown up reading the Paddington stories. And then more recently, there was a movie adaptation with Hugh Bonneville from Downton Abbey, and I think it's Ben Whishaw who does the voice of Paddington, and Hugh Grant is in it as well, I think. And apparently they're very good. Paddington 1 and Paddington 2. Apparently they're brilliant. I've never seen them. My daughter's not quite at the right age, but I think we're nearly there now. I think it's probably time to watch the Paddington films with her. But apparently they're very good. So if you're looking for quintessentially British films for kids, then you could do worse than watch the Paddington films. And so that was it. That's basically it. We kind of met Paddington. I met the British ambassador, Her Excellency. And and there was really good music. We had sandwiches. After that, we left the splendid residence. I mean, let me tell you about the embassy. The embassy is actually next door to the ambassador's residence. So let me tell you about the embassy. The embassy in Paris is the chief diplomatic mission of the United Kingdom in France, which is obviously a very important thing these days, trying to make sure that Anglo-French relations are cordial and good. According to the government's website, the British Embassy in Paris maintains and develops relations between the UK and France, and supports the government's main aims overseas, which are keeping Britain safe, whatever that means. Well, I suppose it means keeping Britain safe, but that's complicated. Making Britain prosperous, so essentially sort of like trying to make sure that trade and business go well, and helping British nationals, that's people like me, British people who live abroad. It must be difficult during this period, especially after Brexit, which arguably has made all of those things more difficult. Anyway, let's not get into the politics. So anyway, I just wanted you to know, I just thought you might be interested in finding out what it was like at the ambassador's residence. There were no Ferrero Rocher, unfortunately. I was expecting that, because of that advert. I've talked about this on the podcast before. I've talked about everything on this podcast before. Do you remember? I don't know. Do you know? Okay, Ferrero Rocher. It's a brand of sort of chocolates. Okay, not really expensive ones, just the sorts of things you get in the supermarket. But they are marketed as being very classy, very sophisticated chocolates that maybe would be presented to you if you were invited to an evening at the ambassador's residence. And in the advert, there's a woman who says, well, what is it, Monsieur Ambassador, with these Ferrero Rocher, you really are spoiling us. At the ambassador's residence, the guests were treated to only the finest chocolate snacks, Ferrero Rocher. I've got to find that advert now, haven't I? I do. Hold on. I've got to play it. Okay, I found it. Check this out. This is an advert from 1993. And an advert that all British people will know really, really well if they were alive and watching TV at that time. If they weren't alive, obviously they won't know it. Huh? Anyway, check this out and check out the posh English voice and and just the whole tone of it. It's wonderful. It's just selling a chocolate, a fairly cheap chocolate that you would buy in a supermarket, but selling it as if it was the most sophisticated chocolate you could possibly find. Here we go. Here's that original advert.
The ambassador's receptions are noted in society for their host's exquisite taste that captivates his guests. Ferrero Rocher.
So what's happened is that the ambassador, it's at the ambassador's reception in the ambassador's residence, and people in suits and glamorous looking women are talking and networking with each other, and people are drinking champagne, and the ambassador nods. It looks over to his butler, a man in a suit with a bow tie on, white gloves. He looks over to the butler who's standing ready in the corner of the room with a silver platter with a wonderful pile of Ferrero Rocher on it, and he sort of nods to the butler, and the butler takes this cue and walks into the party, and the guests are delighted to see that Ferrero Rocher are being handed around by this butler, and one of the women even goes, Ferrero Rocher. She gasps and Ferrero Rocher, and she starts taking some. Actually, it's a man who does it. Ferrero Rocher.
Ferrero Rocher.
Excellent.
Now, that's part of the funny cheesiness of this is that it's all really badly dubbed. So it's a bit like one of those, if you see like a European movie, like maybe a French or Italian film from the 80s, and it's maybe like a sort of slightly erotic film, You know, those sorts of things where the voices have been dubbed. Maybe it was filmed in Italy or something, but then the voices have been dubbed over in English, but dubbed really quite badly. And so it gives it this kind of weird, cheap, almost like a erotic film kind of vibe. It's very funny, really. I think that it's tongue-in-cheek. I think that the advert is knowingly funny. It's not meant to be taken seriously. It's wonderful, really. And one of the women picks up a Ferrero Rocher and goes, magnifique, which means, you know, wonderful, beautiful, magnificent in French. But it's like, you know, dubbed someone else's voice. It's not her voice who says it.
Ferrero Rocher.
There's even the voice, even the sound of a woman going, as she puts one in her mouth. Exactly, like an erotic film.
Excellente.
Excellente.
Monsieur, with these Rocher, you're really spoiling us.
Ferrero Rocher, a sign of good taste.
Monsieur, with these Rocher, you're really spoiling us.
Ferrero Rocher, a sign of good taste.
Ferrero Rocher, a sign of good taste. So there you go. That's exactly what it was like, listeners, when I went to the ambassador's reception. Except it wasn't well, I say it was exactly like that. It was similar to that. It was more like, a cucumber sandwich. Madame l'ambassadeur, your excellency, with these cucumber sandwiches and Pims, you really are spoiling us. And, you know, and then the sound of my wife going, Paddington Bear, you know. There you go, listeners. I just wanted to give you that short report. This was supposed to be a short episode. I have no idea how long this is now, but I better stop, okay? All right. Like I said before, email me if you've got any questions. Sorry about disruptions to the podcast feed recently. And everything should be back to normal soon. And, you know, I'll tell you more about this sort of stuff in the future, but hopefully I've given you information so you know what's going on with Luke's English podcast. All right, great. I'll say goodbye to you again now. Goodbye to you again. Okay, speak to you soon. Goodbye. Bye. 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 Thanks for listening to Luke's English podcast. For more information, visit teacherluke.co.uk.